Alright everyone, it is Finn here and welcome back to another Afcon video where today we're going to be talking about the Super Eagles of Nigeria and what to expect from them at Afcon 2023. Because ladies and gentlemen, at the time of recording, we're only about 2 weeks away from the tournament, and as usual, Nigeria are viewed as one of the most fearful, thrilling, exciting nations to watch in world football.
Oh, behave.
I mean, look at them. They've got a top 10 Ballon d'Or contendee up front for them with Victor Osimhen. How can you not be scared of a team like that? Of course, we're going to be talking about their best possible starting 11 in this video, their kind of current form at the moment, what the weak points for them are, and ultimately what to expect from them. Now, before jumping into that, I would apologize or want to apologize for looking shinier than Eric Ten Hag here. It is boiling hot in South Africa, but once again, you have to push through it. But ultimately, looking at the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Heading into this tournament, I don't think they look that bad. Yes, they've got a few worries when it comes to their defense. So far in the World Cup qualifiers, they've drawn 2 of their first 2 games versus both Lesotho and Zimbabwe.
That's not good enough!
Which is not promising. Defensively, they've been letting in goals that they definitely shouldn't have, and although Victor Osimhen was out injured, I still think they had enough quality up front to score those goals. I mean, when you've got Iheanacho, Boniface, Mothi, you cannot have excuses of why you don't score goals. Ultimately, I do think they should have done better, but I'm not totally worried about them, because looking at the Afcon qualifiers, winning 5 of their 6 games, the only loss being against Guinea-Bissau, once again, it kind of calms me a bit in terms of their ability. Looking at their attack, they did score 22 goals in their qualifiers and only conceded 4, really showing that maybe Nigeria is a tiny bit of the African version of England. They do absolutely brilliantly when it comes to qualifiers, but they absolutely let things fumble when it comes to the big stage.
Why would you say something so controversial yet so brave?
Which once again, I am slightly worried about them. And it all really depends on how Jose Peseiro, their Portuguese coach, really sets up the team. Whether he sets them up in a kind of unique way that he hasn't done before. Because I do think ultimately that's what it's going to take to get a result with them. They haven't been that impressive over the last, 5, 6, maybe even 10 years, considering the talent they've had in that squad. But once again, that is what I, Finn Kraus, am going to do in today's video, kind of set up the best team. I do think looking at them, there are a few major players that they haven't selected in their upcoming squad that once again, we're going to jump into it. And I think the prime example of that is heading into what I believe the best possible starting 11 for them is. I'm going to look at their goalkeeper and I am shocked that Maduka Okoye is not in this team. Yes, I know he hasn't necessarily gotten the most minutes at Udinese in the Serie A this season, but he's definitely started to get more game time. He's just gotten a clean sheet versus Bologna, which once again, very impressive. And ultimately, I mean, looking at their current 3 goalkeeper options, I think the likes of Azoho, Francis Azoho, is their best option, who's currently playing in Cyprus. Yes, he's won back-to-back league titles there, but he's not even always the team's main goalkeeper. But saying that, I do believe when it comes to goalkeepers, especially for a national team, you can't treat them like a Paul Pogba haircut. You can't just chop and change them every single week.
A new hair.
New what?
A new style.
And because Azoho has kind of been the main Nigerian goalkeeper for maybe about a year now, I do think Nigeria do have to stick with him. He's the most comfortable in that position. Once again, whether he's the most reliable, I don't know. But that's kind of where the support in the defense is seriously going to have to pick up their socks in a game like this. Saying that though, once again, Azoho, I don't think is the worst option. It just depends on the defensive setup. Now, of course, heading into what I believe the best back 4 for Nigeria could be. As I said, I do think a 4-4-2 system is the best for Nigeria heading into this competition. Yes, it's a tiny bit old school, kind of like a 1999 Manchester United.
Don't give me hope.
But looking at the kind of pace when it comes to width in Africa at the moment, I just think a back 3 is way too dangerous and allows for way too much availability and attack. Obviously, looking at the back 4 in terms of fullbacks, I've gone for Zaidu Sanusi as a left back, and I've gone for, it was a difficult one, but Ola Aina as a right back, who can play both left and right back. Look at Ola Aina, currently playing for Nottingham Forest in the Premier League at the moment. I think he's an absolutely brilliant physical player. I think definitely heading higher up on the pitch. He'll have a lot of contributions, looking at his numbers. If you compare him to other fullbacks in Europe over the last year, he's in the top 6% of clearances per 90 minutes, in the top 13% for successful take-ons, which once again really shows that he's good at progressive play and getting the ball up to higher places, which once again, as we're going to talk about the attack later on, will be so important. Look at the likes of Sanusi. Once again, I know a lot of people don't necessarily mention him, but he's been brilliant for Porto over the last few years, winning 6 titles or 6 trophies in the last last 4 years. He's one of those fullbacks who's got a tremendous amount of pace.
I'm fast as fuck, boy.
He also wins a lot of aerial battles, and I think these two fullbacks will be crucial for Nigeria moving forward. In terms of the two centre-backs, now this is where I had one or two questions I needed to ask. Looking at the first one, I've gone for the likes of Calvin Bassey, which I think is the most obvious one here. Obviously playing for Fulham in the Premier League at the moment. He's got a lot of experience behind him, playing for both Rangers and Ajax. He is a top quality young centre-back that I do think has potential to go super far in his career. And in terms of what Nigeria has at the moment, once again, he might be their best option. Yes, he's got a bit of poor discipline every here and there. He will get a card here and there.
Naughty, naughty.
But as long as he doesn't go totally haywire and pick up too many red cards or yellow cards in this tournament, I do think Nigeria will be fine. I think in terms of a centre-back distribution-wise, he is very, very good. And once again, in terms of starting counter-attack, he's a solid option. In terms of his centre-back partnership, I was very tempted to go for Trusty Kong. I think 2-3 years ago, I 100% would have gone for Ekong. I think he's a brilliant, solid leader in defence. But ultimately, nowadays, I have to go for Semi Ajayi. Once again, sorry for any pronunciation errors there. But currently playing for West Brom United. Once again, what a solid option for them. And I would argue that he's been West Brom's best centre-back for, dare I say, 4 to 5 years now.
Perfect.
I think he's super solid. Once again, currently 30 years old. Maybe not as young as I once thought he was. He's just one of those players who seem to age quickly. I do think Ajayi, once again, in terms of a centre-back who can be very deadly when it comes to corners and other set pieces where the centre-back goes high up to score that crucial header in the last 5 to 10 minutes. I do think Ajayi will be that man, and I do think he could be very crucial for them. But as I said, I wouldn't be too upset if Trusty Kong was in this team. I know that's not just me trying to get a collaboration with him.
Why the fuck you lying?
Now heading into the midfield, this is where things get super interesting because ultimately this is where you need balance in your team. This is kind of what sets up how a team will win the ball back, first of all, and how they're set up for counter-attacks. Look at the two central midfielders. I've gone for Iwobi and Ndidi. Right everyone, sorry for the quick interruption, but while editing this video, we've had some unfortunate news, as Wilfred Ndidi has officially pulled out of the Afcon squad.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
Obviously, in my opinion, by far Nigeria's best midfielder has picked up an injury, and of course this is a major loss to Nigeria. It's like prime Barcelona missing out on Sergio Busquets, or forgetting toilet paper while going camping. Things could get messy for them.
Everyone leave. I have to poop.
Them. And to be honest, this could be the difference of Nigeria winning or losing Afcon overall. In terms of a replacement that I would put in the squad for him, I would put the likes of Frank Nyaka from Brentford. Once again, in terms of a like-for-like player, I feel like he's the most similar. But once again, looking at Wilfred Ndidi, absolutely brilliant, and he will be missed. While in the Premier League, he was considered after maybe Kante to be the best defensive midfielder in the league. And along with that, so far this season for Leicester, 6 assists and 4 goals. In terms of everything he can provide on the field, he can do it all. Attack, defense, he will be missed in the squad, and then maybe I could go for someone like Joe Aribo, but I do think Frank Nyaka is the best option. What a shame. Next to him, I've gone for the likes of Alex Iwobi, who's totally rejuvenated his career over the last year or two. Once again, kind of moving from a winger position to a central off the park kind of player. In terms of goals and assists, he definitely contributes way more. Defensively, his work ethic has seriously picked up, and looking at both Iwobi and Ndidi, two 27-year-olds, if they really sort out their stuff right now, I think there could be a solid partnership for what? 4-5 years at least. Look at Iwobi once again, total freedom I think would be the best option for him. You almost have to just let him run around and kind of have his own freedom, as I said, kind of like a Bruno Fernandes for Manchester United, and really do his own thing, because I do think that's the best way to utilize him. In terms of the two wingers, once again, a lot of options I could have gone for here, but I've gone for Ademola Lookman, and once again, it was a difficult one, but Moses Simon. Yes, I know Chikwueze for AC Milan hasn't been too bad this season, but looking at Moses Simon as a winger, I personally think he contributes a lot more in terms of attacking options. When it comes to assists, he's a lot more consistent, which I do think consistency is key in a team like this. He also has a lot more goals on a regular basis, and once again for Nigeria, in my opinion, I just think he's proven a lot more over the last few years. Saying that though, once again, you don't play the same team every single game. I do think once again chopping and changing between Moses Simon and Chukwueze throughout this tournament would be very important. In terms of the other winger, as I said, I've gone for Ademola Lookman, who's been a beast over the last 2 years. I'm really happy he kind of found his scoring spot after a few poor spells in the Premier League. Looking at him so for Atalanta, getting 13 goals and 6 assists last season. So far this season, he's got 7 goals and 3 assists in the league.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Ademola Lookman has really found his shooting boots and once again could be crucial for Nigeria in this tournament. Now, heading into the front two strikers, there are a lot of options here, and I'm so upset that the likes of Terem Moffi has been left out of this team, who has been scoring for fun in the French Ligue 1 so far this season, and last season, once again, as I said, really strapping up his boots, and especially considering players like Ahmed Musa is still in this team, the likes of Iheanacho, who, don't get me wrong, can be crucial to this team. I don't necessarily think that they've been in a purple patch of form, where if you look at the likes of once again, Victor Boniface, ultimately, he had to be in this team. 10 goals and 7 assists in 16 Bundesliga games so far. He might be the most informed Nigerian striker in the world at the moment, which considering next to them, they've got the African Player of the Year with Victor Osimhen. That is saying something.
That is bloody lovely.
But obviously talking about Boniface a tiny bit more. Obviously currently top of the Bundesliga with Leverkusen. And I have to say, if Leverkusen end up winning the Bundesliga, does Boniface deserve as big a reputation as Osimhen for winning it with Napoli? I almost potentially think so, to be honest with you.
Gasp!
I do think Boniface, once again, absolutely brilliant striker, and I do think he is a player who will take it over the next few years as a top talent. Obviously, as I said, next to him, I've gone for the likes of Victor Osimhen, which, once again, let's be honest, it's no surprise that he was going to be in this team. As I said, he was the African Player of the Year. Along with that, he was in the top 10 Ballon d'Or votes, scoring 26 goals in 32 league games last season. So far this season, 7 goals in 13. Not quite as impressive, but it very much is a rebuilding Napoli team. They've obviously lost their manager from last season. They've also lost 1 or 2 players over the last few years. So it definitely is time to rebuild. But ultimately, I think looking at this Nigerian national team, this is a team with a lot of balance. And ultimately, as I said, will be super dangerous. And I do think, once again, if they kind of work tactically in terms of their defense, would be super solid. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for everything you need to know about Nigeria for Afcon 2023. Do let me know down below whether you do think the Eagles will soar high or whether they'll be shot down. Once again, I do hope they kind of find a bit of consistency because they are a brilliant team, but only time will tell. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Finn, FYNN, super close to 10,000 subscribers. Let's see if we can hit the goal before the tournament. Until then, Finn, FYNN, cheers.